Hello everyone, welcome back to the KMTRADERS channel. This is the full market analysis volume 41. Just coming back from the Christmas holidays, so we're going to start to see a few moves come back into play soon. Most likely we could start to see some momentum pick back up into the markets around January time. So just a run through of what's happened this week. There's not much that's really changed with our bias. If you watched our last market analysis is roughly the same. There is a few tweaks along the way, so we can have a look into that, but I'm not really expecting too much for this week or next week after. Possibly the second week of January we could start to see momentum kick back in, but nonetheless we will still keep on track with the markets and see exactly how everything is flowing. So we'll start off with gold. So we had a few questions about gold and its ascent towards the upside. So what I am looking at is just the move that we've basically progressed to the upside. Ideally, I'm looking at momentum to shift either to break this uptrend or to break this downtrend here. So once we see a confirmation of those two breaks, we could see a directional bias come into play, and then we could start to see a drop into the market. For me, I think that we could see price to potentially fall to the downside. Reason for this is because there is slightly, a lot of pressure into the market coming in. We could also expect, some manipulation around these areas. So I'm not too focused on gold right now, but again, what you need to just wait for is a break of that high and this downtrend, and we could see a continuation just a bit further, or this break of this uptrend here, which is connecting this trend. And if we see a break to the downside, then you can be confident that we are pushing lower, especially if we break this critical higher low at 1820. So just keep that into consideration. And as of course we are targeting to the downside, so around 1760 is where I'm looking to see price move to. So that's just the next advanced move for gold. If we take a look at Euro USD, so we started to see some bearish momentum come into play. We see some sell-off opportunities coming in. So still, I am waiting for more pressure to the downside, 1.2 to be tested at some point. It doesn't have to come all the way to 1.2, but ideally I want to see this trend line being broken, and this would give a good significance of potential move to the downside as a counter trend, and then we could see price to push back into 1.23. So the bias is still the same for that pair. The similar situation with New Zealand dollar. Again, I am waiting for price to drop. We did have a bit of a drop through through the start. So the 21st we had that huge drop in, and it was quite interesting because it kind of recovered, but I still think that we could see price make another advanced move to the downside, so it is still pending. So if we just drag this up for next week, so yeah, ideally we could start to see some lows being taken out here. And like I said, guys, if you look at the 4-hour price action candles compared into this week into previous weeks, there's not really much going off. So really take some time off here. Don't really think that you have to trade, especially if you are swing trader. Then this is the benefit of a swing trader, in my opinion, is you get to, if momentum's not in play, there's no real point trying to position yourself in the market, just purely based on the fact there's less momentum. But if you're a day trader, again, this could be your opportunity to get some last minute profits and pips in. So yeah, the ball still rolls if you want to make it run, I guess. So with this trend, I still am waiting for another drop into the market. So we did have a nice drop to the start of this week, last week. We slowly recovered, so ideally we could start to see price start to slowly drop into and make some lower lows here. So I'll be keen to watch out for that move. USD JPY, we covered this from last week, but I am waiting for a drop into the market. So from this point, we started to slowly drift to the upside. So if we just move everything to the side, just a little bit, we can see that we still need to make that drop to the downside ideally for myself to be convinced that we are going to be pushing higher. So this move would be quite significant because we'll be making some significant lows into the market as well as highs. As well as targeting some critical highs such as 105 to 106. But yeah, ideally I want to see price to make a drop to the downside once more, just to gain all this, just to take out this low here, and then we could potentially propel towards the upside. Again, this is all approximate, thoughts. Until we make this move to the downside, then we can be clear of what we need to do. But yeah, moving on to CAD JPY. This one, where are we? Okay, so we are looking at this higher time frame wedge. Again, I keep talking about this wedge pattern, but again, this is a high time frame, so I am expecting price to push a lot higher. This is not that strong in my opinion. I think we can still reach 85. Again, it's just waiting for the momentum to perfectly align and kick in the right direction. So we can see prices start to trail off, which is not a bad thing. We just have to stay patient and wait on this. But yeah, I think we are starting to see some momentum kick in. So if we have a look at the structure of the market, we can see price slowly making its way to the upside on the lower time frames, breaking structure here. If we could break above 82, that would be a good significant move to wait for a push, retest, and higher a high progression to the upside. So that would be a good move to take. Moving on, I'm looking at EJ right now. So let's go EJ. So yeah, there's a lot of things I want to talk about here actually. Well, not a lot, but this here is a prime example of where there's going to be a huge amount of confusion into the market. This is just a classic type of manipulation. This is where banks are going to be here. They're going to be present, and what that means is they're going to target these highs here, and there's going to be targeting these lows here. So what will happen is most likely is price to drop to the downside, take out any price positioning. I even think we could just look at a test at the uptrend here. I think that would be a very strong position to take or to look into. You could actually look for a buy. It nicely comes into 125, but we could also look at 125.5. So again, another psychological level. Just to spike all the people out in the market, and then we could get that push to the upside. So something to keep in mind there. So that'd be a very nice trade to look into. Moving on to NZD JPY. Again, we had a similar situation here. So with all of the consolidation moves, you see it time in and time out where there's a lot of fluctuations in the market. And from a retail perspective, it's very confusing, and that's when people stop trading. But that is when you should ideally take positions, in my opinion, and purely based on the concept of not giving up, in the sense, because you'll only regret it. From my own experience, that once I see something like this, I'm always I'd get frustrated at the market. Then I'd say to myself, okay, I'm going to leave NZD JPY and I'll come back to it in a few days. Little did I know, because I wasn't following it, price had made the immediate run, and unfortunately I missed out, and therefore I couldn't see price, or either couldn't see the price move in advance or at the time, or two, because I wasn't watching it, I wasn't aware, and obviously I missed the move, and then you're pretty much in the chasing game. You don't really want to do that. So what we can see here, if we have a look, is a similar situation, which is what I was speaking about, into the EJ, in the sense of consolidation. So we can see how price has made its way to the downside, and you know, similar with this could have been, you know, a nice opportunity to get in the market. Again, this is hindsight speaking, but we could see price make a break to the upside and then drop back lower. You know, something as crazy as that can still happen, because usually we could get a huge spike to the upside, and I don't think this is a strong enough spike. So something like that could happen where we get a push to the upside and then a big drop again. So it is a lot of confusion into the market right now, and again, we are coming to Christmas time, so I'm not expecting too much from the market. Now we'll look onto AUD JPY, but similarly, the JPY pairs are looking at a similar pattern here. We're all in a consolidative pattern, and I'm not really seeing too much pressure at the market. So again, that comes down to the market and what time we're in. So this is golden time, as I like to call it. So AUD JPY, we can see price making a ascent to the upside. We're making a new high here, or very close to, but I think we did make a new high. So out of this whole trend to the upside, we can alter the uptrend. So now I'm waiting for this stronger drop to the downside before this move to the upside. So again, pulling out that fib, pull it up to the upside. We're the circle that I've marked is at the 50% zone, but we could come into the 618 as well, so keep that valid. So that's at 75. So I'm not going to mark it on here, but just for reference, this will be the first point to look into, and then if we can get some type of reaction, then we can look at a trade. If we don't, we can look at the 618, etc., and move on as such. So moving on to USD Chef, I am looking at for price to move towards the upside. There is a lot of momentum and divergence here, which we looked at last week, and we can see price dropping lower, and the troughs of the RSI are getting higher, and the peaks are getting higher too. So we can see price making its way up, so we could be looking out for some shorting opportunities. It doesn't have to necessarily get to 0.9. We could be looking at price to make a eventually a move to the downside. So I'm going to still keep 0.9 as a target just in case it does. It's not necessarily it has to or critical that it comes to this level, but watching out for this zone as well, and then for price to come and take out the low, so somewhere possibly even at 0.88 would be in a good, a nice psychological level to look into, and then a rocket to the upside. That's my thinking around that pair still. So we still haven't really made any move or progressions from last week, as you can see, or we're still making a lot of moves to the downside. So looking at USD CAD for the last pair for this video, and I believe for this year, yeah, this is going to be the last video for this year for this full market analysis. Should have mentioned that at the start ideally, but anyway. So yeah, so we had this break of the downtrend, so we can clearly get rid of this now. So what we could look at is, as price is making its way to the downside, we could look at a potential retest onto this downtrend here, and see if we can make some type of reaction from it. I'm not saying it definitely will, but if possible, we could look at something like that, and see if it can rocket towards the upside. So I am looking at for the main move towards the upside. So I think that USD CAD is in due for a big retracement into the market, because if you look onto the higher time frames on a daily, this one's just been going down since, if I just take a look, actually show you, might be quite messy, but yeah, so we've got our structures here marked out quite nicely. So we've been dropping since the 20th of March, all the way down. So I am waiting for price to make a very strong move to the downside, to the upside, to recover some of this position into the market, and it might actually be the start of the 2021 where we start to make an advance to the upside. So maybe it's a yearly cycle, who knows? But again, this could be something new to look into for New Year. Maybe I haven't really been trading USD CAD this year, purely because I think we got the bias wrong from the start, and obviously I think it affected the bias towards our trading. But I think we did manage to get into some trades, but not that many that I can recall. I think looking back at the year, I think Euro USD has been very good to me. What else? Euro USD, NZD USD, AED USD. I think I've been able to do quite well with those pairs. USD JPY here and there, hit or miss, and then Euro JPY to an extent, AUD JPY. USD Chef, I didn't manage to call it properly into the group, but that positioning of that trade, I think I'll show you guys here. USD Chef was to look at this high here, and we could have took 300 pips on that move, but nonetheless, not to worry. But yeah, I think we could start to look into more pairs next year. Obviously, there's new opportunities around the corner. But yeah, overall, in terms of the biases and everything, we had a few troubles with Euro USD from the start. USD JPY, a bit of a shake towards the end of December. I think they were the only troublesome pairs that we had. We've pretty much been able to get the right bias for the last few months, so we'll see how well we can keep up our performance through the new year. Obviously there's a lot of more people coming in, so again, I do appreciate your thoughts and your opinions of the market, of your choice. So yeah guys, that will pretty much wrap up for the video for this episode as well for the end of the year 2020. Next week, the full market analysis will be on the 2nd of January. So I could expect some things to start to slowly creep in. I'm not going to jump in straight into the market. I'm going to slow myself in and try not to get ahead of myself. We've got the whole year to make some profits. So yeah, we'll see how it all plays out, and hopefully there's no more COVID spikes that come into the market. So obviously we couldn't foretell that last year. For those who have suffered from that COVID, the spike and the drops into the market, I think it's a very good lesson for you to take on, adapt your strategy. This is now if you found a method to work around such events as the COVID spike, you'll be able to pretty much go forward with the market and develop your own system with confidence now, because I do believe this has been a very stressful year for some. I've seen people from who was very respectable 2-3 years ago just drop off over this year because of the COVID spike, because their system hadn't been able to look at such an outlier in their results, if you don't understand what I'm saying. So what I mean by that is just drops. What happens if your method has a really strong continuation to the downside? Like, what is your ideal entry? Is it to leave it? Is it to enter it? Is it to wait for a possible retest, backtest? All these sort of things. So again, I do think that, like I said, every year is a new history in the making, but there's some things that a year can have in terms of a future projection as a trader. I think that if you don't take this as a big lesson, it could potentially affect your confidence, and not only that, your mental edge in the market. And your mental edge is the only thing that will keep you in the game long enough. And if you don't trust your system, it's going to naturally reflect that into your profits. Are you taking out too early? Are you not trusting your bias? Should you be entering your trades at a certain point? Are you entering later than expected? And these things do happen. And I've seen, like I said, a few traders, I'm going to name names, but their system has just been utterly dreadful. It's just been horrendous, and it's bad enough to see that for yourself, but it's not good to see that on others, especially if they've made themselves known for a particular system. So I think that 2020 has been a very rocky year for traders. If you did manage to make some profits or learn anything from it, definitely be blessed for that, because I don't think anything like this will have happened again. 10 years down my career, I'll look back at 2020 and I'll know it'll be my best year I've ever had. And I hope that's the same for yourself. So moving on for 2021 in a more positive light, there's a lot to learn from 2020. Move it into 2021. If you feel like you haven't learned as much, don't worry, because there's still another year. The markets don't sleep. You just have to possibly play the catch-up game, but also don't forget about playing the markets in real time, because that's also a big factor in trading. Are you able to trade it with the focus in real time, as well as backtest it in real time, in past data time? So yeah, guys, I think it's going to be a very good year, and my voice doesn't sound very optimistic right now. That's because I'm very tired with all the Christmas food and stuff. But yeah, trust me that 2021, I'll be more focused than I have been last year. What I have thought to myself, as one good tip for what I've really looked at for this year is trying to develop my personal daily routine, and I think that is absolutely flawless. If you can master that, you'll be able to maximize your day, and this is how you win mentally. So again, experiment things, do things that you like to do. You got to be in a position where you're not stressed. If you're stressed, it's too much. You've got too much external pressure to make a trade, and it shouldn't really be like that. If you feel like you've not traded, if you feel like you've not made any progress since 2 weeks, 3 weeks, which I personally have, I'd always be a bit frustrated and just look at my projected goals and say to myself, oh, I'm not gonna hit it. But 1 week later, all the trades might just come out of nowhere, because the market has now reached a fundamental point. And that's the thing, you can't really hold yourself accountable for projections and to be accurately on point. You have to give yourself a percentage leeway in order to to stay sane with the game, if that makes sense. So yeah, 2021 is just going to be super huge for those who have managed to really learn from 2020, and not only from the markets but for themselves, and develop your inner strength and mental toughness, because 2020 has just been awful. I've seen a lot of people dropped from trading and from just normal routine. But again, if you were able to learn from that, and not only learn from that, but for yourself, learn more about yourself, I feel like you'll definitely do well. Yeah, there's a lot of things you can do. It's still not too late. 2021 might be your year that you have your awakening moment. So just keep going, keep working forward, making sure that you're preparing every weekend, every night, and put in the work, and you'll definitely get the results, guys. So that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about for the end of the video, as well as the last video for myself for the end of 2020. It's been an eventful year, best year, and hopefully you guys can say the same for yourself. So that'll be all from us. Thank you very much for listening, guys. Make sure you're subscribed, leave your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys all in the new year.